One Sunday morning, Michael, his wife Sarah, and their son Ethan were getting ready to go somewhere important. They were all dressed nicely. Sarah had packed some food for the family, and Michael walked outside to start their old 1999 Ford Ranger. Ethan sat in the back, while Sarah sat beside Michael. They had barely reached the entrance of their neighborhood when the truck suddenly shook and stopped. Michael turned the key. Click, click. Nothing. He tried again. Click, click. Still nothing. A few people from the neighborhood came outside to see what had happened.
Is that Michael's truck again?
One man laughed and said, "Michael, that old truck is still alive." Another man smiled and said, "Man, you need to retire that thing." A few people laughed. Michael forced a smile, pretending it didn't bother him. But Sarah wasn't smiling. She felt terrible for her husband. She knew how hard Michael worked. She knew how many times he had wanted to buy a newer truck but chose to spend the money on the family instead. Sarah gently touched his hand and said, "Forget what they say. It doesn't matter." Michael looked at her and smiled. "It's okay. The truck is old." He paused. "We're not." But little Ethan was watching everything. He heard the laughter. He saw the pain in his mother's eyes. And for the first time, he realized that his father wasn't just driving an old truck. He was carrying his family's responsibilities on his shoulders. That day, Ethan made a quiet promise to himself. One day, Dad will never have to feel embarrassed in front of anyone again. Michael couldn't get the truck started, so the family simply went back home. But this wasn't the first time Ethan had seen his father's old truck struggle. Every morning, Michael drove Ethan to school in that same Ford Ranger. His father worked at an auto repair shop. He left early every morning. Spent the whole day working under cars. The Ford Ranger had more than 250,000 miles on it. The paint was fading. The air conditioner barely worked. And sometimes Michael had to turn the key 2 or 3 times before the engine started. Michael would hit the steering wheel gently and say, "Come on, buddy, don't do this today." Little Ethan watched him from the back seat. One morning, Ethan asked,
"Why don't we buy a new truck?"
Because this truck is old just like me.
They both laughed. But Ethan didn't understand yet that his father was sacrificing his own wants to take care of his family. One day, Michael's old Ford broke down right outside Ethan's school. Smoke started coming from under the hood. Students walked past. Some of them laughed. One boy pointed at the truck and asked Ethan, "That's your dad's car?" Ethan felt embarrassed. He looked at his father. Michael's clothes were covered in grease. His hands were dirty. But he smiled at Ethan and said, "Give me 10 minutes." It took almost an hour. Finally, the truck started. Ethan quietly got inside. On the way home, he asked, "Dad, are we poor?" Michael looked at the road for a few seconds. Then he said, "We don't have everything we want." He looked at Ethan and smiled. "But we have everything we need to build something better." Ethan became quiet. He didn't completely understand what his father meant. But he remembered those words. A few weeks later, Michael and Ethan were driving on the highway. Suddenly, a bright orange Lamborghini passed them. Ethan's eyes became wide.
What kind of car was it, Dad?
Michael smiled. "A Lamborghini. How much does it cost?" Michael laughed. "More than our house." Ethan watched the Lamborghini disappear down the highway. Then he asked,
Do you think we could ever own a car like that?
Maybe someday, son. We can always dream.
Then he said, "But don't decide you can never have something just because you don't have it today." That night, Ethan went into his room and took out a piece of paper. He wrote, "One day, I'm going to buy Dad an amazing car. He folded the paper and put it inside one of his books. Years passed. When Ethan was 18, he got a job at a grocery store. The pay wasn't much. His friends bought new shoes, new phones. They went out on weekends. But Ethan saved his money. A few years later, Ethan got a better job. His income increased. But he didn't change his lifestyle just to impress people. He didn't buy an expensive car. He kept driving an old Honda. He saved. He invested. And at night, he started a small online business. At first, the business made almost nothing. Some months, he didn't get a single customer. Then one night, he lost a big client. Ethan closed his laptop and said, "I can't do this anymore." His father walked into the room. "What happened?" Ethan looked at him. "It's over, Dad." Michael stayed quiet for a moment. Then he pointed toward his old Ford Ranger. "Do you know how many times that truck has broken down?" Ethan smiled. "A lot." Michael nodded. "And how many times did I leave it?" Ethan answered, "Never." Michael looked at his son and said, "Then don't let one bad day decide the rest of your life." Ethan opened his laptop again and went back to work. For the next several years, Ethan kept going. Daytime job. Business at night. Learning on weekends. Failure after failure. Loss after loss. But Ethan refused to quit. Slowly, his business started growing. First, $1,000 a month. Then, $5,000. Then, $10,000. Eventually, Ethan left his job and focused completely on his business. By the time he was 35, Ethan had become financially successful. But he didn't buy an expensive car for himself. Instead, he bought something for his parents. A new house. One day, Ethan took his parents to a beautiful new home. Michael looked confused. "Why are we here?" Ethan put a set of keys in his father's hand. Michael looked at them. "What are these?" Ethan smiled. "Your new house." Michael froze. "What?" Ethan smiled. Michael's eyes filled with tears. "Son, we didn't need this." Ethan hugged his father. "When I had nothing, you gave me everything you had." He paused. "Now that I have something, why wouldn't I do the same for you?" Michael hugged his son tightly. But Ethan's childhood dream wasn't finished yet. 1 year later, Ethan took his father to a Lamborghini showroom. Michael immediately felt uncomfortable. "Son, what are we doing here?" Ethan laughed. "Just come with me." They walked past several expensive cars. Ferraris. Porsches. McLarens. Then Ethan stopped. In front of them was a bright orange Lamborghini. The same color Ethan remembered from childhood. Michael stared at the car. Then he looked at his son. "This one?" Ethan nodded. The salesman handed Ethan the keys. "Congratulations." Ethan looked at his father. "Dad, get in." Michael laughed. "No, son. I'm not getting in that thing." Ethan smiled. "Dad." Michael looked at his son. Then slowly opened the passenger door. He sat down. Ethan got into the driver's seat. He pressed the start button. The V10 engine roared through the showroom. Michael jumped. Then suddenly, he started laughing. Not the tired laugh of an old man. Not the polite laugh he used when life was difficult. It was the laugh of a young man. Ethan looked at his father. After a few seconds, Michael said, "You know something?" "What?" Michael looked at his son. I never needed a Lamborghini. Ethan stayed quiet. Michael continued. I just needed to know that all those years of sacrifice meant something. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. He reached over and hugged his father. So if your life is difficult right now, if you're driving an old car, if your bank account is almost empty, if people laugh at your dreams, don't let your current situation convince you that this is where your story ends. Your current circumstances are not your final destination. Keep learning. Keep saving. Keep working. Keep moving forward. Fall down. Get back up. And most importantly, don't quit. Because one day, you may look back and realize that what you were working toward all those years wasn't just money. It wasn't just a car. It was the ability to stand in front of your parents and say, "You did so much for me. Now it's my turn." And that is what real success looks like.